What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 best albums of 1971. As with my previous list, we are grading these records on things like the performance of the artist, the songwriting of the artist, the production of the record, and how innovative the record was. But this time we're going to do something a little bit different, and I pretty much graded each album and each song off the album with a number. Okay, so I pretty much ranked these albums based off of that number. And so that's how we're going to really prioritize which one is better than the other one. So number 10 on my list is going to be a Van Morrison record from this year called Tupelo Honey. This one is great for a lot of reasons, but I think this is one of his strongest albums because the songwriting is solid, the instrumentation, the band playing is awesome, and it's just a nice overall record. So this one's going to have a rating of 7 stars. Number 9 on my list is going to be an album called Getting Ready, and no, it's not the Temptations album. It's actually a record by Freddie, which is probably one of the best blues records ever, to be honest. And the thing with this one is this one's going to get 7.1 stars, but the issue is that he didn't write all these songs. He had a part in writing some of these songs, but a lot of them are covers like Key to the Highway or like Dust My Broom. Those are pretty much almost traditional blues songs. And so although they are covers, he does them better than most blues artists. And I mean, that's really what stands out about this record is the performance of Freddie, his guitar playing, his delivery of the blues, and that is why this is going to be number 9 with a 7.1 rating. Now, really, these first 5 albums that I'm going to talk about, number 10 through number 5, these were all very hard to rank because the scores and the ratings were so close. So keep that in mind that these first 5 it was very hard to rank these because they are very close. And I had a lot of other albums that I wanted to put on this list. Some from John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Joni Mitchell. There's a lot of great records that came out this year, but unfortunately it was very close and I can only pick 10. So these are the 10 I went through. But number 8 on my list is going to be an album by The Who called Who's Next. And this album only has 8 songs, but I think it's by far their best record. It really is. I think the 4 songs on this album are as good as it gets. They're 10 out of 10 songs, and that's really what makes this album good. The other 4 songs are a little bit weaker, not my favorite, but I mean, overall, the album has a nice flow to it, and those 4 songs of Baba O'Reilly, Bargain, Behind Blue Eyes, and then Won't Get Fooled Again, I mean, that's pretty much as good as it gets, and I think that's The Who at their best, so that's why this is going to be number 8. Number 7 on my list is going to be another band that was at their prime or near their prime in this year, and that is going to be the Rolling Stones with Sticky Fingers. This is one of the best Rolling Stones albums because it has some of the most famous hits on it. It's a very solid record. It flows very nicely, and this one I'm going to give a rating of 7.2. So just, again, slightly higher than the previous ones, but all these albums are great. But Sticky Fingers is Mick Taylor on guitar. You have some of the most famous guitar riffs and solos from this album. You have the blues influence still. You have acoustic songs like Moonlight Mile, and I mean, Dead Flowers is one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song from this record. And so overall, this is just a solid record for number 7. Number 6 on my list is when it starts getting a little bit better now, because now we're gonna go with Electric Warrior by T-Rex, and this one's gonna have a score of 7.5. This album is very solid all the way through. There's not a lot of weak songs. I would say the only song I think is weak is the very last track on here. Other than that, this album is very solid. Mark Bolan's sound and delivery on this album is phenomenal. I think he's one of the most unique artists of the 70s. And I mean, the big hits are Bang a Gong and Jeepster. Those are probably the strong tracks on here. But I mean, Cosmic Dancer and, you know, Monolith. There's a lot of, the album just has a really nice feel, a really nice flow. All the songs fit together well. And so that is why Electric Warrior is going to be number 6. Number 5 on my list is again going to be another band that was in their prime at this time. That is going to be The Doors with LA Woman. I think this is possibly their best record. And this one's going to move up a little bit too because this one has a rating of 8 stars. So we're starting to get a little bit better here. This album, again, there's so many solid songs on this record. Riders on the Storm, LA Woman, I mean, it's hard to compete with songs like that. But all around, the songwriting is solid. The riff writing, the keyboard playing, Jim Morrison is pretty much as good as it gets right here. And so that is why LA Woman is going to be number 5. Number 4 on my list is going to be an album called Tapestry by Carole King. I think this is one of the best songwriting albums of the decade. And this one I'm going to give 8.1 stars, just a slightly bit higher than LA Woman. It was a close call, but Tapestry just outdoes it a little bit more because the songwriting is so solid and because the album has such a nice flow to it. All the songs flow together nicely. I mean, I Feel the Earth Move, It's Too Late. There's so many great songs on this record, and I think Carole King is just a fantastic songwriter. That's really what stands out. So that is why Tapestry is going to be number 4. Number 3 on my list is going to be an album called Hunky Dory by David Bowie. This album's going to have a score of 8.4, and this is probably one of my favorite records of all time. I know that Ziggy Stardust is his most popular record. This one I think is underrated though, because the songwriting might be better than the songs on Ziggy, to be honest. I mean, Life on Mars, Changes, Oh You Pretty Things, it's hard to beat songs like that. So overall, it's Bowie. I mean, I think this is a huge step up from the previous album that he did before this one. So this just really shows how great of a songwriter he was. I mean, everything about it. The guitar playing is awesome, the lyrics, the chord progressions, the arrangements, everything about this record is awesome. So that is why this is going to be number 3. Then we get to number 2, and this one tied with first place. That's how close these first 2 records are. And that is going to be Masters of Reality by Black Sabbath with a rating of 9.6, because there's only 8 songs, I believe, 8 songs or 9 songs on this record. And again, with a lot of these early Black Sabbath albums, they don't really have a lot of weak points. Almost every single song is good. So Master of Reality is awesome. I mean, you have Sweet Leaf, you have After Forever. There's lots of great tracks. Again, with Tony Iommi being possibly the greatest riff writer of all time. And the whole band just does a fantastic job with the lyrics, the singing, the jams, everything about it. So number 2 is going to be Masters of Reality. And as for number 1, I hope you can guess it. That is going to be the 4th album by Led Zeppelin that is technically untitled, but often referred to as Led Zeppelin 4. That's what I like to call it. This one also has a rating of 9.6 stars. And so, I mean, what can you say about this record? Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Misty Mountain Hop, Going to California. I think When the Levee Breaks, the 2 tracks you don't hear a lot about are Four Sticks and Battle of Evermore. Those are probably the more underrated. I mean, I would say they're not as good as the other songs on the record. I think, something like Misty Mountain Hop or Rock and Roll are some of my favorites, but still, Four Sticks, I think it grows on you, because I think in the early days, when I used to listen to that record, I didn't really like that song as much, and then I think it kind of grows on you over the years. But the riff is awesome. I mean, the drum style on that song is awesome. And then you have Battle of Evermore, which was written on a ukulele, I believe, or no, not a ukulele, a mandolin it was written on. And so it's just another interesting, unique sound. It's kind of similar to Ramble On, where Zeppelin had these weird influences that they would implement into the music, and not a lot of rock bands did that, so it made it something kind of interesting. This is also the record that introduced their 4 cymbals, which is one of the coolest, most iconic parts of Led Zeppelin. And so this was just a groundbreaking album. I mean, Stairway to Heaven, one of the most popular songs of all time, even though I'm getting somewhat sick of it at this point, but still one of the most iconic songs ever. And so that is why number 1 is the 4th album by Led Zeppelin.